Hi, Martino. How are you?
Good. Hi, Park. How's it going?
Good, great. Thanks. I am very well. First of all, thanks very much for attending interview today. I'm very excited to talk with you. We've been around 2, 3 years. We didn't really meet each other, but I know you starting your own architectural firm since last year, October. So um, tell us about yourself a little bit. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the invitation. Great to be here. So yes, my name is Martino Hutz. I'm architect. I'm having a small architecture studio here in Munich, Germany. I'm also a research assistant at the Technical University in Munich,
Mhm.
um, searching in the field of 3D printing with salt.
Mm.
And also lecturer at the TU Vienna for the sixth year now.
Mhm. Um, so you and yourself, you have a quite variety of experience in different country. What was your what was your most exciting experience as an architect, or not only for the practical experience, but also for academical experience? Could you tell us about a little bit of your background experience?
Sure. Yeah, I think what's the most interesting to me is a little bit of both worlds.
Mm.
So one obviously is the real life, basically how to learn to build a building, which I think is the essence of architecture. But
Mhm.
at the same time, the academic world gives you just loads of freedom and kind of gives you the opportunity to a little bit think beyond of what needs to be done or needs what is on your schedule for the day.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, the academic world is also, I just like the idea of basically bringing your ideas and you a little bit of knowledge, what you have forward to the youngsters. So
Mhm.
this this is so a little bit like the setup I'm having now and the setup I'm enjoying quite a bit.
Mhm.
And well, if you ask me about the experience, um, especially if it comes to BIM software, I think it goes back quite a bit. When I
Mm.
did first intern as a high school student, I was at this small office here in Munich, and they were really young and open and friendly, and they just let me use their tools. And back then, it was ArchiCAD, basically
Mhm.
the main drawing tool. So even before I started architecture school, I already knew a little bit about how to draw a plan and how to build up like a 3D model. And of course, that was an advantage when I started architecture school in Hamburg at the Hafen City University.
Mm.
I just carried on out of convenience and laziness, just basically having a little bit of advantage knowing one software already.
Mhm.
So I carried this on through my university years until I applied at Studio Hadid at Angewandte in Vienna.
Mhm.
I completely forgot about the BIM drawing world and architecture world. Of course, you know that as well. So I really jumped into all other softwares rather than BIM software. Of
Mm.
course, I know Grasshopper, Maya was basically just focusing on design tools.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then funny enough, after I graduated, I was applying to my favorite office, which was big in Copenhagen.
Mhm.
And I applied with like a big portfolio full of nice renderings and full of kind of fancy ideas and design proposals. And then on a side note, I was also saying apparently I knew ArchiCAD,
Mm.
and which by then I haven't used for my whole master degree.
Mm.
But that, I guess, brought me into big because they're exactly at this point they were looking at a person taking over the BIM side of the Kistefoss Museum, which is like this twisting bridge
Yeah.
slash museum slash
Mm-hmm.
structure in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with this project, and I
Mm-hmm.
had this amazing team around me, and the size of the building was basically small enough to really grasp every detail,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time big enough to have and exciting enough out of like from a geometrical perspective, exciting enough to have exchange with engineers, with MEP,
Mm-hmm.
with the software team, with the design team working with Rhino. So there were like a whole load of different professionals coming together, and I was in charge of basically bringing all that together
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the BIM model, which
That's
was
really great. That's really
exciting.
great. Yeah. So like it's like you had like like without any like let's say accidentally you really like covered whole kind of echo open beam echo side of open beam workflow with all different discipline for this through this project as an architect, and you coordinate all different softwares together, and I think it's a really great opportunity, and I really like that project in Norway. It's twisting the the bridge.
Yeah,
Did you?
thank you. It was a great coincidence that I knew kind of a little bit out of all the worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Was like specialists. There were specialists from like the engineers bringing in the structural model, MEP bringing in the
Mm-hmm.
MEP model, the light consultant bringing in his model.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it was yeah, just basically perfect to dive really into detail.
Mm-hmm.
And then the architect archicad lifelink was relatively new, so
Mm-hmm.
I was also kind of communicating with the archicad team,
Mm-hmm.
basically to figure out how to solve bugs and how to deal with complex geometry. So it was pretty new and exciting back then.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
But
that's
then
really.
at the same time, since kind of um, time went by and the project got finished, I also went back more into design
Mm-hmm.
and design lead on one point. So the
Mm-hmm.
whole kind of BIM was like an essential element, but
Mm-hmm.
for me personally, in my personal kind of growth, it became less
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah, but it's funny, Tom. I also don't like say BIM, this funny definition of the current status, because we're doing actually exactly same what we've done last decades. It's just it's a little bit more digitalized and more collaboration platform we work together. But
Yeah.
I think the core is, as always, the architect as architect rules, engineers rule, and everyone should respect each other and collaborate together. That's the key. I think you got already huge experience through this project, and
Yes, I agree.
so regardless of BIM, what is your favorite design software, or if you do any programming language, use it, and do you have any favorite and why?
Well, it's. I think it really depends what you're doing. As I just said, also working in different phases.
Mm-hmm.
I think for everything, at least in my experience, the most convenient is to work with Rhino and Grasshopper as a
Mm-hmm.
design tools,
Mm-hmm.
more intuitive, more sketchy,
Mm-hmm.
and then in later phases, I would, out of convenience, still jump into ArchiCAD, but knowing that obviously Revit is the market leader. So I guess in the long run, that would be the software to go for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So so it depends on your task and stages of construction. So let's say the phase of the project. So for the beginning, like design stage, your favorite is, let's say, Rhino and Grasshopper as a design tool, and later maybe ArchiCAD or Revit like to document all this design. Right.
Yes.
That's a I think there it's good distinguished because I guess most of BIM software, so to say BIM offering software, ArchiCAD, Tekra or Revit, such a things, it's lack of design feeling in that software. It's really so let's say dry kind of not very attractive interface and not intuitive in a way.
Yeah.
So I guess this the design tool, most of them Maya or Grasshopper nowadays offering this parametric tools or like computational design options within the software, and I think it's very useful in everyday practice. And how do you think in reality does parametric design methodology or computational design, does it really help your workflow in reality?
Um, yeah, I would definitely say so. But maybe to say that first, which I think is a big misconception among many architects and architecture students. Sometimes I have students telling me, "Look, what's the need on learning any
Mm,
parametric software? I'm not planning to become the next UN Studio or Zaha or something."
mm,
And also with more senior architects, I think this is still like a misconception, which is really wrong.
mm,
Uh,
mm,
Parametric is being a design tool
mm,
instead of, I think it's probably the most powerful tool for analyzation,
mhm,
optimization. It increases speed for
mhm,
uh, just time-consuming
mhm,
work.
mhm,
Let's say
mhm,
building a 3D site model and
mhm,
stuff. It's
mhm,
all things you could get from OpenStreetMap as data
mhm,
and have the site model ready
mhm,
within a couple of clicks.
mhm,
So I think um, yeah, I think this is it's just everybody should be aware that it's not just it can be a design tool, of course it is,
mhm,
but it's definitely not what it's supposed to do. It
mhm,
should
mhm.
be like a really powerful tool to support you in whatever what you do.
Exactly.
There is
Right, the computational design or parametric design, it's talking about a lot of form finding strategies, but actually parametric using parameter, you could, as you mentioned, we could do any kind of task to be more efficient or automate the process. So I think indeed it's really practical uh,
maybe
system.
to add on this, there is also this AI scientist or
Mm-hmm,
researcher called Richard Zorka,
mm-hmm,
and he's saying like you definitely should have a first, second language after your mother tongue,
mm-hmm,
but then as a third language you should learn like a programming
mm-hmm,
software,
mm-hmm,
Python,
mm-hmm,
whatever,
mm-hmm,
um, in no matter what field you work in.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
This is really powerful words, already true.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you're a physicist or if you even teacher, everybody could use these tools to optimize their workflow, no
Mhm.
matter what field you're working in. And I think this is really true.
Yep.
And I hope I would expect that this is something which gonna catch up speed
Mhm. Mhm.
in the next couple of years.
Mhm. Mhm.
You also, if you think about BIM software, they are trying to do that, like
Mhm.
with Dynamo,
Mhm.
Grasshopper Link, with
Mhm.
Architect. Um, I think it's still kind of, at least out of my experience, it still feels like still a bit clumsy.
Mhm.
Probably
Mhm.
you know better, or still kind of in development mode. It's
Mhm.
that intuitive as if you would work with a Rhino Grasshopper, for example.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think it's something the software engineers realized and definitely try to
Mhm.
implement to improve.
Yep. There's a I think it's time now since these BIM softwares are already being used decades like ArchiCAD for 50 years already, Revit 20 years, and the all software develop like vendors realizing that there is a core programming or like written programming or text programming or visual programming is definitely need to be implemented in these softwares so everyone can involve and collaborate together. I think it's a very good point that programming is very powerful tool that any domain can use it and
Yes.
can offer a lot of things. Um, okay, then these kind of technologies every day changing. Yesterday car or yesterday mobile phone is different than today. And how do you see your perspective as an architect in building industry? What what would you imagine and what is important for you as an architect in the future?
Well, maybe it kind of adds on to what we just discussed.
Mm,
I definitely think that similar to other professions,
mm,
that the whole kind of digitalization, optimization, AI becomes like a significant part of it.
mm,
And thinking on BIM, which is also kind of part of that, just becomes the new normal. And I think more and more throughout the years, it becomes also important for other professions which we work together.
mm-hmm.
And I think it's already there.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time that it spreads enough that we don't talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're right. Absolutely right. So there is something missing that the bridging the gap between maybe the technical part and also the planners or designers to be somehow connect. Maybe the AI or um, the machine learning method maybe could link us somehow automatically. I hope.
But
Uh,
also, like what you have with Revit, that you have basically the engineer working in London on the
mhm,
same model as what you work in Vienna or
mhm,
Copenhagen or Munich,
mhm,
and you work seamlessly together in one model is
mhm.
something already happens. I
Yeah.
think it's just a matter of that everybody just takes it as your new normal.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
So
The
I think
ever.
it's there. It's just like maybe also for older generation or kind of middle-sized offices, they
Mm,
have to be really careful not to lose track.
yeah. Yeah. I think
I
that's
see
important.
offices they're having like, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 years experience, also staff having like a serious office
Mm-hmm.
inside. But the way they work is still reminds me on like 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I think if they don't catch up pretty fast, they're just gonna lose track eventually.
In architectural point of view. Yeah.
Yeah,
What about, so I'll skip this. Maybe it's not proper question for you about BIM manager's role in reality and etc. Or do you have any idea who should be a good BIM manager? Not project manager, but BIM manager. Because you worked in big organizations, so you may have
yeah,
some vision.
yeah. It's well, obviously, as you said, I'm maybe not, yeah, not the biggest specialist to ask that, but
Mm-hmm.
of course, if you so don't
Mm-hmm.
take my too serious my
No,
opinion on that.
sure.
No, but at the same time, I think out of my experience, what I saw at BIM manager colleagues in Copenhagen,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, first of all, I think it's everybody who's interested could do it. It's not like rocket science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think you really need to be willing to focus on one specific field in this whole world of architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be, or I'm sure it helps if you really able to dig deep into kind of a problem, dig
Mm-hmm.
deep in one software.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have like the patience to
Mm-hmm.
figure out issues you're not able to solve for weeks, and then you discover one world after
Mm-hmm.
another. Um, um, but I think also you need to be clear that it's just covers one tiny spot in this field
Mm-hmm.
of architecture,
Sure.
and it's a really small fragment,
Mm-hmm.
um, really specific, and maybe as an it can be an advantage or disadvantage. You really stuck to one, most of the cases you
Mm-hmm.
stuck to one software.
Mm-hmm.
If software gets outdated, if another software takes over in the long run, your skill set kind of raises and falls
Mm-hmm.
to that. And also maybe to say that it's definitely, if you think about being an architect, you think about space, you think
Mm-hmm.
about people,
Human
you think
science, yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I would claim, is definitely not the focus as a BIM manager.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I guess the if you start architecture first semester, you definitely or most likely you have different things in mind than
Mm-hmm.
what you do as a BIM manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess it's a matter of whatever field you're interested in.
Definitely.
I also think that similar to other specifications, if you're really good in something,
Mm-hmm.
it's always an asset, or it's always something which lets you stand out in a big corporation.
Mm-hmm. So it's
Um,
like it's between specialist and generalist. I think architect in general, we are kind of generalist. Let's say we know like
yes.
many domain, like what's going on. We observing and
Yeah.
tracking many issues of society and also news. Um, but we also have to know who is good at what, so you can order your tasks to the different collaborators. So that's for sure. And I think the BIM manager who is good could be, as you said, someone who can sharpen their pencil to make it very sharp drawings. But at the same time, if you have only black color, it's not good, right? Because if it's broken, then you need to have different color pencil, for instance. So I think it's a very good comment because technology is changing so dramatically. So I think the traditional way saying BIM manager, they should also look at more diverse area, but at the same time, they can sharpen their own specific tools. But I think stick to only one specific thing is not, it's never good in current technology and our profession. Doesn't make sense for
Yeah,
our
I
profession.
think eventually it's maybe something which is almost connected to juniors,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just hard to catch up with every new
Mm-hmm.
plugin, with every new update, with every new kind of
Mm-hmm.
invention which is happening. But at the same time, if you're able to catch up and if you are on top of the game,
Mm-hmm.
then really like a well-respected, well-paid specialist,
Mm-hmm.
uh, highly needed in today's big corporations.
In
Um,
mm-hmm.
Thinking about like how BIM is already part in competitions these days,
Mm-hmm.
or the BIM model required on a really early stage.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we had like the design and the BIM model working, or the BIM team basically working parallel
Mm-hmm.
to kind of keep up momentum both
Mm-hmm.
in the design world as well as the BIM, the execution world,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I think also there, a little bit to your question from earlier, I think it's kind of, it's almost like it can be good that it gives you flexibility, but at the same time, for I guess in many ways you almost do the work twice. You
Twice.
design with one software and then you rebuild it,
Mm-hmm.
or you import it with another one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is all probably also like a lag which is going to be
Change.
um,
Yeah.
changed on one point.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of beam waste in reality, and also our industry is only you deliver for each stage of like phase, and then the who took over is more or
Yes.
less completely do it again from the scratch, or like just referencing it and completely build it again. So this is also good to comment. Um, I know you've been teaching for a while and different university, and as an academic educator, um, what do you think? Do you think student of the building industry, not only architect but also civil engineers or facility management department. Do you think this sort of idea of BIM is necessary to somehow teach at university, you think?
Yes, I definitely agree or think so. But at the same time, I also feel that it's already happening, at least
Mm,
out of the universities I work in, from a pretty early semester on. It's almost like the first 1 or 2 semesters out of nostalgia.
mm,
You sometimes hand sketches or
mm,
drawings, but from a really early stage in your academic career, you work on or you jump on 3D software big time. So I'm all the time impressed by students having like detailed and drawings and sections and plans and 3D models. Of course, I know it's not like BIM in the full spectrum, but it's
mm,
the first step in getting
mm,
into the software and being able to kind of get out plans and sections and stuff,
mm,
and starting to knowing the
mm,
BIM. So yeah, I think it is important. But I also think it's already happening
mm, mm.
quite
Yeah,
okay.
right. It's
It also depends on the university. Sometimes it's almost you have to be careful as a student or as an educator not to jump too much into it,
mm-hmm,
to only have 1,000 of software specialists
mm-hmm,
graduating from architecture school.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's really easy to use,
mm-hmm,
easy to start work,
mm-hmm,
apply to an office, and then you know, okay, this guy knows Revit.
mm,
Let's. But at the same time, maybe this person never ever expanded in his whole life the
mm,
way of how to think in an architectural way,
mm-hmm.
which I think can be also tricky the other way around.
In architect, yeah, definitely. That's very important points also. A friend of mine told me, if you want to be an architect, don't use Revit or ArchiCAD, whatever. Just think about what's
Yeah,
important.
somehow I agree.
Yeah,
Somehow I agree.
yeah. My last question, Martino, since we have maybe 5 minutes more. Um, I'm enjoying learning every day new things, including German language. Uh,
Not bad.
so I'm quite enjoying what I'm learning these days in terms of like just as a hobby. What do you think if you have any wish to learn something for the next couple of years in your profession? What would you like to learn?
Well, at the moment, think I'm trying to learn two really different aspects. One is a little dry, basically how to run an office.
Mm-hmm.
So with legal stuff,
Mm,
dealing with building applications, dealing with all this kind of technical world
mm,
and paper world, which is essential to run an office.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
trying to catch up there,
Mm-hmm.
and which is maybe for now kind of almost my hobby is this whole VR game engine world, which I
Mm,
enjoy. So
right.
myself an Oculus and a nice graphic card. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to dive into to this world
Yeah.
because I think it's going to be a game
It's
changer
game changer, yeah.
picture,
Definitely.
and not just for visualization.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's this whole kind of world in visualization, in
Mm,
animation, in how to present a client a
mm,
project.
mm,
The speed and the quality is catching up so much.
mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy
Yeah,
learning that at the moment.
that's great. I think it's not anymore future. So when you hold your Oculus Quest or any VR glass, you already can kind of feel the tangible sense of space or maybe object, you can already feel it. So that's great innovation these days. All right, Martino, thank you very much for your time today. And I think this really sort of encourage and also inspire our community, especially people who hear from you this diverse experience with also with big office and also your personal practice. I think it could be really, really good tips and suggestion for not only for the students but also for people who work these days. They can maybe rethink what is important in our industry. So
Well, thanks to you. Looking forward to see your channel growing.
yeah, yeah, it's more about a hobby, but I hope we can catch up soon in Vienna or could visit Munich and have nice beer there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Martino. Then
Great.
have a
Thank
nice
you.
day, and thanks very much
You
for your
too.
time.